My name was Amir. I was a Sharia lawyer in Rome, respected, disciplined, and bound by a code that felt as ancient as the city itself. Yet, beneath the tailored suits and the weighty tomes of legal text, an unshakable emptiness gnawed at my spirit. I was the son of an imam, molded to uphold a faith that thrived on tradition. But as I sat in that courtroom, overwhelmed by the tension in the air, I felt the flicker of doubt ignite into a wildfire within. During a fateful hearing, I faced a moment of silence that spiraled into chaos. My heart raced, my breath faltered, and then darkness consumed me. In that void, a desert emerged, vast and unyielding. There, before me, stood a figure radiating light and grace. Jesus. He called my name not with condemnation, but with a love I had never known. In an instant, the veils of my beliefs were ripped away, and I recognized the shackles that had bound my faith to a rigid system. I heard him speak of a spiritual war, unseen yet waged over souls like mine. The structures I had revered, the laws, the rituals, were mere distractions from a truth infinitely deeper. As I stood before him, the overwhelming peace replaced years of spiritual turmoil. In contrast, I returned to a world where my existence now bore the weight of betrayal. Family turned to fear. Community shunned the very whisper of my name. As the days turned into restless nights, I wrestled with shame and isolation. I felt adrift, far from the foundations of my upbringing, yet drawn to a new path illuminated by hope. I began to seek, studying sacred texts with an urgency driven by both desperation and the yearning for connection. Within the shadows, I discovered a community of believers that welcomed me, and for the first time I felt less alone, yet terrified of losing everything I had ever known. What I experienced was no mere coincidence. It was a divine calling. I understood then that revealing this truth was my purpose, a mission fraught with danger in a world where silence often shrouded the sacred. I knew I had to share my story, to awaken those who, like me, might still be trapped in the prisons of their own faith. Join me on this journey of revelation and transformation. Before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? And what time is it where you are? Let's connect across this digital landscape. If you love Jesus and seek to uncover the truth that's been hidden, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Your journey toward enlightenment awaits, and the deeper revelations are just beginning. In the Roman courtroom, the air was thick with tension and reverence as representatives of various faiths gathered, each there to uphold their beliefs while bound by the collective weight of tradition and justice. I was among them, a Sharia lawyer, deeply committed to my faith and the principles I had devoted my life to. However, even in this moment, as I sat surrounded by the symbols of cultural respect and legal authority, I was grappling with profound internal questions that I had suppressed for too long. The silence felt deafening as I listened to the arguments unfold, yet my heart was far from serene. It was during these proceedings, amidst the often contentious debates about morality and law, that I felt a sudden wave of weakness wash over me. In an instant, the room faded away, and I found myself suspended in darkness, plunged into an abyss where time and space ceased to exist. In that overwhelming moment, a light began to emerge, a brilliant light that drew me in. I felt an irresistible pull toward it, and as I approached, I recognized the unmistakable figure of Jesus. He stood before me, radiant and full of compassion, an embodiment of love that transcended understanding. As he looked at me, I felt every doubt I had ever harbored wash away. Jesus began to speak, unveiling hidden truths that shattered the constructs of my previous beliefs. He illuminated the hidden agendas woven into the fabric of our societies, the manipulation by the elite that perpetuates divisions and conflicts. I witnessed the spiritual war playing out in our world, evident in the political and social strife that continued to divide humanity. It was a revelation I had never been prepared for, a stark reminder that the struggles I witnessed were not merely legal battles, but reflections of deeper spiritual conflicts. In this extraordinary encounter, I learned how the authenticity of faith had been obscured by layers of deception. Jesus showed me how many were trapped in rigid doctrines, unable to experience the freedom he offered. I understood then that my identity as a lawyer, while important, was not the totality of my existence. My role could extend beyond advocating for justice in a courtroom to fostering spiritual awakening in a world hungry for truth. The realization filled me with urgency, a compelling need to share these insights, even if it meant challenging the very foundations of my upbringing. When I awakened back in the courtroom, my perspective was irrevocably altered. The faces around me, previously shrouded in tension, now looked different. I felt a surge of purpose. The truth I had encountered was not just for me. It needed to be shared. Yet fear gripped me. The fear of confronting my community, of risking the acceptance I had long fought for. Could I truly stand before them and unveil this revelation? Even as doubt crept in, the call to action pushed me forward. This journey was just beginning. The awakening was not merely an individual struggle, but a collective mission to confront the deception enveloping our world. I was ready to fight for the truth, aware that the path would be fraught with challenges but motivated by the light of Jesus guiding me through the darkness. I've spent my life navigating the expectations that come with being a Muslim lawyer, especially as the son of an imam. At 35, I should have felt proud of my career and my contributions to society. Instead, I carry an overwhelming sadness and emptiness that gnaws at my spirit. There I was, sitting in the courtroom, surrounded by respected colleagues and the weight of our traditions, but inside, I felt lost. Each day presented a facade of strength and confidence, yet I was painfully aware of the disconnect between my outward compliance and my inner turmoil. The pressure to conform has always been suffocating. I was raised to uphold the values of my faith, which I genuinely respected. Yet as I delved deeper into the intricacies of our religious doctrines, I began to feel a haunting dissatisfaction. It was as if a veil had been drawn over my understanding, a hidden agenda designed to keep me in line. I found myself torn between my duty to my family and community, and the yearning for a deeper spiritual truth that remained just out of reach. The more I adhered to the expectations, the more profound my emptiness grew. One day, during a particularly intense hearing, everything changed. The arguments had become heated, and as the tension in the room escalated, I felt myself slipping away. I collapsed, my world fading to black. Suddenly I found myself in an unfamiliar place, a vast, dark expanse. It was as if I had been transported to another realm, where time and space lost their meaning. Then, amidst the darkness, a blinding light appeared, and I was enveloped by it. Standing before me was Jesus, radiant and filled with compassion. I felt an overwhelming sense of peace, something I had been searching for my entire life. As we connected, Jesus began to share with me profound revelations. He spoke of the hidden truths obscured by the elite, how they manipulate our understanding, perpetuating the very spiritual war one had sensed for so long. I witnessed the deception behind religious and political systems, how they sow division in society to maintain control. My heart raced as I absorbed the magnitude of the insights he imparted. It struck me then how many people were ensnared by a false sense of security, clinging to beliefs that kept them from experiencing the full richness of spirituality. When I awoke, the strong sensation of purpose filled me. I realized I had been called to share these revelations, to alert others to the importance of seeking truth beyond the confines of tradition. But the fear of rejection threatened to hold me back. How could I confront my community, knowing the risks involved in challenging their beliefs? Even as the doubts swirled within me, the urgency of my mission pushed me to reach out and begin the work I was destined to pursue. The awakening had not only changed me, but now demanded that I take action, igniting the fire of truth within myself and those around me. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, trusting that the light of Jesus would guide me through the spiritual war that awaited. As I knelt in prayer, a familiar sense of disconnect washed over me, intensifying the doubts that had invaded my spirit. I am Amir, a Sharia lawyer raised within a steadfast community. For years, my life revolved around the principles of law and faith, but now I found myself grappling with an unsettling emptiness. My dream life had been filled with disturbing images, visions that challenged everything I knew and trusted. In these dreams, I began to question the very foundations of my faith, including the religious authorities I had once revered. Was it possible that the teachings I had adhered to so fervently were rooted in a hidden agenda? In the quiet moments before sleep, the turmoil within me grew louder, echoing the conflicts I witnessed daily in the world around me. The political and social landscape felt fraught with division and deception, casting shadows over my understanding of spirituality. I began to feel as if the spiritual war was not just an abstract concept. It was a battle playing out within my own soul. I sought clarity in my prayers, yearning for guidance that would lead me back to peace. During these moments, I often felt a flicker of hope that I could find the answers I sought, that the truth would emerge through the fog of uncertainty. Then came the night when everything changed. One moment I was standing in the prayer room. A wave of calm washed over me as I closed my eyes, and the next, I was enveloped in darkness. It wasn't frightening. It felt as if I had been transported to another realm, one devoid of worldly concerns. As my surroundings shifted, I was greeted by an astonishing light. There stood Jesus, his essence brimming with compassion and understanding. He called my name softly, and in that instant, I felt a deep connection that transcended all fear. As he spoke, the revelations flowed like a river of light. Jesus revealed the truth about the hidden agendas driving the conflicts in our society, the manipulation by the elite that perpetuates discord and strengthens division among people. I saw how easily individuals could be misled, how fear and indoctrination could snuff out the spirit of unity and understanding. The reality of the spiritual war became evident, and I was struck by how the struggles within me mirrored the global conflicts I had often dismissed as unrelated to my life. When I awoke from that profound experience, my heart raced with a blend of fear and exhilaration. It was as if a door had been flung open, offering me glimpses into a world of truth that I had never before considered. I felt compelled to share these revelations, to help others awaken to the spiritual war that was silently raging around them. But I was also acutely aware of the risks involved. The fear of rejection from my community, of being labeled a traitor pressed against my resolve. Yet I couldn't ignore the urgency of my mission. Jesus had shown me the truth, and it was now my responsibility to illuminate the path for others, despite the shadows of doubt threatening to pull me back into ignorance. During a crucial court session in Rome, I felt the pressure mounting in the room, suffocating me as I struggled to make my case. My name is Amir, a Sharia lawyer dedicated to upholding the law and the traditions of my faith. Yet, as the argument swirled around me, I was overcome by a wave of weakness. Just as I began to speak, darkness enveloped me, and I collapsed, leaving the chaos of the courtroom behind. What happened next was an experience I would never forget, a profound moment that would change the trajectory of my life. In the void that followed, I found myself in a dark desert. The oppressive heat weighed heavily upon me, and with each step I took, I felt lost and disoriented. The ground beneath my feet seemed to shift with uncertainty, mirroring the turmoil within my own heart. Suddenly, amidst the endless sands, a brilliant light emerged. A feeling of warmth washed over me, and I realized I was in the presence of Jesus. His light was enveloping, illuminating everything around in a way that dispelled the very darkness I'd been steeped in. As he called my name, a deep peace settled within my soul, contrasting sharply with the turmoil I had just left behind. As Jesus spoke, revelations began to unfold before me. I could see that the religious systems I had always trusted were often merely distractions, veiling the deeper truths that could guide me toward authentic faith. He revealed to me the hidden agendas of the elite, the chains they placed on society to manipulate and control. In this moment of connection, I understood that I was not just grappling with personal doubts, but I was also part of a larger spiritual war between truth and deception. My heart raced as I absorbed the implications of this revelation. The conflict that raged outside in the world mirrored the inner turmoil I faced, filled with divisions that kept us from uniting as one. In that desert realm, I witnessed the impact of these hidden agendas. They fueled wars, created misunderstandings among cultures, and perpetuated suffering. I felt a surge of anger mixed with clarity, as I understood that fear was their weapon of choice, used to maintain the status quo. Jesus emphasized how essential it was for each of us to awaken, to break free from these cycles of deception and take back our power. I realized then that my calling extended beyond the courtroom. It was a mission that urged me to help others recognize and confront the barriers in their own faith journeys. Coming back to consciousness, the weight of my encounter felt like both a burden and a gift. The truths I had encountered now pressed heavily on my heart, fueling my desire to share what I had learned. Yet, the fear of rejection crept back, reminding me of the societal and familial expectations that had shaped my life. Would my community shun me for speaking the truth? I faced a profound inner conflict. Despite my fears, I felt a fierce commitment to champion truth, knowing that others needed to hear what I had come to understand. As I stepped back into the reality of the courtroom, I knew the path ahead would not be easy. I was armed not only with revelations but also with a purpose that resonated deeply within me. The battle I was set to face, both within myself and with the outside world, was daunting. Yet the light of Jesus illuminated my way, giving me the courage to challenge the deceptions that surrounded us. I was ready to embark on this mission of awakening, trusting that my journey would not only lead me to my truth, but also to the liberation of those who were still searching. When I returned to reality after my encounter, the courtroom panic faded, but a different kind of dread settled in my chest. I was Amir, a Sharia lawyer respected by my peers and community, yet now I felt like a stranger in my own life. The truths revealed to me by Jesus during my near-death experience had irreversibly altered my understanding of faith, identity, and purpose. I knew I had been awakened, but I was also acutely aware of the price that came with this transformation. My heart ached with the knowledge that my journey would not be universally accepted. Rather, it would invite resistance and alienation. Upon sharing my experience with family, I was met with disbelief and disdain. The conversations I hoped would be filled with understanding turned into confrontations filled with accusations. Traitor, heretic, lost. Each word cut deep into my spirit, compounding my feelings of guilt and spiritual loneliness. The very people who had shaped my understanding of faith now viewed me with suspicion. I found myself spiraling into a pit of despair, grappling with the reality that awakening often comes at a cost. My family, my community, would they ever accept this new path that diverged so sharply from the beliefs we'd shared? Days turned into weeks, and the emptiness that enveloped me felt suffocating. I would retreat to the prayer room, the same space where my transformation began. I tried to connect with Jesus the way I had, hoping for clarity and solace. Yet even there, I felt the weight of expectation pressing down on me. I longed for the peaceful assurance I had felt during my experience, but instead, I was left wrestling with the deep-seated fears of isolation. How could I reconcile the truths I now held dear with the traditions that formed the foundation of my identity? The conflict between my old self and the man I was becoming created an internal battle unlike any I'd ever faced. Despite the fear, a flicker of resolve began to emerge within me. I remembered the revelations I had received, the ways the elite have manipulated beliefs, fostering division, and keeping society ensnared in a web of deception. I realized that this spiritual war was not just about personal fulfillment. It was about awakening those around me, encouraging them to look beyond dogma and see the broader truths of our shared humanity. In those moments of reflection, the urgency of my mission surged through me. I had to find a way to reach others, to show them the light I had seen, even if it meant confronting my own fears of disapproval and rejection. As my sense of purpose grew, I reached out to others who had also felt a stirring within their hearts. There were individuals in my community who questioned the very foundations of their faith and were looking for a safe space to express their doubts. We gathered quietly, sharing our stories and supporting one another in this collective awakening. I felt a sense of solidarity as we explored the themes of truth and deception, and I realized I was no longer alone in this fight. Each gathering filled me with renewed hope, but the fear of losing everything I held dear never fully vanished. I still felt my family's absence keenly. However, I was ready to confront these fears, knowing that the journey of awakening was not just my own, but a path we could walk together toward liberation and truth. Secretly, I embarked on a quest for truth that shook the very foundations of my life. As a Sharia lawyer, I was deeply entrenched in a system that valued tradition and conformity. Yet ever since my encounter with Jesus in that dark place, I felt an insatiable need to uncover what truly lay beyond the constraints of my upbringing. The realm of faith I once embraced began to feel limited, a hidden agenda obscuring something much more profound. So in the stillness of my home, I turned to the Bible, hoping to find answers within its pages. As I read, I was struck by the depth of the revelations unfolding before me. Each verse resonated with the feelings I'd long suppressed. The doubts, the questions about the elite's manipulation of belief systems, and the widespread deception that seemed to shroud the truth. It was there, through the stories of others who had also journeyed through their own spiritual wars, that I found solace. I sought out Christian testimonies online and in books, immersing myself in narratives filled with encounters like my own. Their words echoed my own struggles and fears, igniting a flicker of hope that maybe I was not as alone as I felt. In my search, I discovered a small group of believers who met discreetly, a sanctuary where questions could be asked without fear of judgment. Sitting in their presence brought me an unexpected sense of comfort. They welcomed me, not as a traitor to my faith, but as a seeker of truth. With each meeting, the bonds we formed deepened. We shared our stories, our struggles with cultural identity, and the overwhelming fear of losing our family ties. Being part of this group sparked something awoken within me, a sense of belonging grounded in a mutual pursuit of enlightenment. Yet, the risks weighed heavily on my conscience. With every step I took toward this new faith, the potential loss of my old life loomed like a dark cloud overhead. Would my family understand? Would they ever forgive me for distancing myself from the traditions that had defined us? My heart ached at the thought of the rejection I might face, yet the drive to reveal the underlying truths overshadowed my fears. I began to see the urgency in sharing my experiences, in urging others to confront the hidden agendas that clouded their perceptions. As I continued this journey, I felt Jesus guiding me with each revelation. The world was engaged in a spiritual war, and I was compelled to join the fight, armed with the truth I had discovered. I continued to engage with the community I had found, sharing how our collective understanding could challenge the status quo and dismantle the deceptions woven into our lives. I recognized that while the path ahead was fraught with peril, it was imperative to stand up and illuminate the way for others. The awakening was not mine alone. It belonged to all those who yearned for truth amidst the chaos. With unrelenting determination, I moved forward, ready to face whatever challenges awaited me. Recognizing my experience as a divine calling felt surreal, yet undeniably urgent. I am Amir, a Sharia lawyer deeply rooted in my traditional upbringing, yet my life was forever altered after that fateful moment in the courtroom. The near-death experience, where I encountered Jesus, opened my eyes to a truth that eclipsed everything I had known. I did not merely receive a revelation. It ignited a fire within me, a pressing need to share this newfound understanding and warn others about the hidden spiritual battles we all face. In the wake of my experience, I felt a responsibility that both terrified and exhilarated me. I watched as the world spiraled into chaos, unable to ignore the underlying tensions that fueled division among people. I began to grapple with the concept of a spiritual war that coursed through our societies, one that sought to silence the truth. Jesus had revealed to me how the elite manipulate beliefs, using deception to uphold an agenda that keeps humanity at odds with itself. This awakening transformed my approach to my work and my interactions. No longer could I sit back and allow the status quo to define my path. I recognized the importance of speaking out, even knowing the personal risks involved. Every day became a struggle between the old and the new, the familiar and the unfamiliar. I chose to delve into the truths hidden within the scriptures and sought out communities that embraced such revelations. Connecting with fellow seekers of truth brought me solace, yet the fear of rejection from my family haunted me. I questioned whether they would ever understand the shift within me, whether they would still accept me now that I dared to challenge the very beliefs that bound us together. Yet with each moment spent in prayer and contemplation, I felt bolstered by a sense of purpose, urging me to share these insights with whoever would listen. The revelations continued to unfold, providing me with a deeper understanding of not just my role but the larger narrative of humanity. I watched the political landscape change, witnessing how leaders often exploited faith for manipulation while claiming to act in the interest of their followers. I felt a moral obligation to inform those around me, friends, family, and even strangers, of the deceit that lurked within the systems we once trusted. The stories of those who had also walked through the fire of doubt inspired me. I knew I needed to use my voice to combat the apathy that surrounded me. I was determined to share the truth I had internalized, to bring awareness to the spiritual war that was quietly unfolding. Each conversation I had became a chance to challenge the ideas that kept so many bound by fear. I saw the potential for awakening within the eyes of those who listened and realized that I was not alone in this fight. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty and risk, yet I felt emboldened by my encounter with Jesus. I was ready to confront the deception, not just for myself, but for everyone searching for truth in a world that desperately needed an awakening. In a courageous act, I made the decision to leave my home behind, shedding the identity that had been imposed on me. My name, Amir, had always carried the weight of my culture and family. But after my encounter with Jesus, I felt a compelling need for transformation. It was no longer enough to merely exist within the confines of expectation. I needed to embrace the freedom that came with my new understanding. Adopting a new name symbolized this fresh start, a powerful manifestation of my commitment to my faith and the truth I had encountered. Leaving my family and community was a heart-wrenching decision. I feared their reactions when they learned of my departure from tradition. Yet, deep within, I felt an awakening that could not be ignored. I was determined to spread the revelation I had received, a truth that transcended the boundaries of my past. This wasn't just about my personal journey. It was about the spiritual war being waged around us, a battle against the lies and deceptions carefully cultivated by the elite to keep us in bondage. As I walked away, my heart raced, both from fear and the exhilaration of newfound freedom. As I settled into a new city, I began to seek out safe spaces where I could speak about my experiences. There, I discovered a community of believers who welcomed me with open arms. Each gathering was an opportunity to share my testimony, how I had heard Jesus calling my name amid the darkness, revealing truths that challenged the very fabric of my understanding. In these safe environments, I found solace and a sense of belonging, a stark contrast to the isolation I had felt before. My testimony resonated with others struggling to navigate their faith amid societal expectations, planting seeds of change in hearts eager for truth. Yet the persecution loomed over me like a shadow. Each day I faced the potential consequences of my choice to speak openly about my faith and the truths I had uncovered. I knew that every word I shared was a challenge to the norms that held sway over my former life. The fear of rejection from my family followed me, whispering doubts about my worthiness. Could I truly stand before the world as a proponent of truth, when the ramifications could mean losing everything I once held dear? The inner conflict was intense, a constant reminder of the sacrifice involved in my awakening. As I continued this journey, I felt a strong sense of urgency pressing upon me. The spiritual war was not just a distant notion, it was a living reality that affected us all. I witnessed how easily society could be swept into deception, dividing us along fault lines created by fear and misunderstanding. With each testimony I shared, I urged others to awaken, to recognize the manipulation at play in their own lives, and to seek the truth that Jesus offers. I realized my role was not merely to share my story, but to empower others to embrace their own awakenings, transforming the narrative of faith and liberation. The fight was far from over, but I was committed to this mission, ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. Years later, I've dedicated my life to helping others who have faced similar spiritual awakenings. My name is Amir, and my journey from an elite Sharia lawyer to a seeker of truth brought me face to face with the realities of a spiritual war playing out around us. The testimony of my experience, an encounter with Jesus during a moment of despair, continues to ripple through the lives of those I meet. Each day I share my story, illuminating the dark corners of deception that keep so many bound to false narratives. The path has not been easy. Despite the hope I feel for those seeking truth, I remain haunted by the prospect of reconciling with my family. I once stood proudly within the structures of our community, known and respected as the son of an imam, but after the revelations I received, I felt a chasm open between my former identity and the man I had become. Though I hold hope that one day they'll understand, I know that the act of walking away from tradition is viewed as a betrayal. Yet I can't help but challenge those hidden agendas that fuel fear and division in our world. Each encounter I have with individuals fighting their own battles reminds me of the revelations of the hidden agenda. These truths are not just personal. They reflect the larger manipulations that shape our societies. I encourage others to see beyond the surface of their beliefs, to confront the deceptions woven by the elite that keep us from unity. I speak passionately about how our understanding of spirituality has been twisted, leading us to view each other as adversaries rather than allies in this fight for truth. The world is rife with tension, and I feel it's my responsibility to bring light to the darkness. My experiences with Jesus have not been limited to that initial moment of revelation. Throughout my journey, I continue to feel His presence guiding me, reminding me that embracing discomfort is part of the awakening. The battles we face often stem from internal conflicts, fear of rejection, and the struggle to break free from inherited beliefs. I've seen how technology can amplify these fears, offering distractions rather than clarity. Yet, amidst the chaos, I also witnessed the emergence of a new consciousness, a collective awakening that encourages us to rise above our differences. As I navigate this path, I feel an intense urgency to keep sharing this message. The spiritual war is ongoing, and more than ever, we need voices willing to challenge the status quo. Every testimony I give serves to affirm that truth can empower us to confront the deception woven into the fabric of society. I continue to hope that one day my family will see the light I discovered. Until then, I remain dedicated to planting seeds of change wherever I can, urging others to awaken to the spiritual realities that surround us. The road ahead is fraught with challenges, but I trust that the journey is worth it in the name of awakening. In the midst of my life as a Sharia lawyer, I lived a routine defined by expectation and obligation. I was Amir, the son of an imam, admired for my commitment to uphold the tenets of our faith. Yet beneath this exterior, I was consumed by a creeping emptiness that I couldn't shake. It wasn't something anyone could see. I wore a mask of success and confidence in the courtroom, but behind closed doors, I wrestled with profound questions about the validity of my beliefs. The pressure to conform to the ideals of my community suffocated me, and I often felt like a puppet in a grand play, acting out a role that no longer aligned with my heart. The turning point came unexpectedly during a crucial hearing in Rome. As I presented arguments with an intensity built on tradition and faith, something inside me suddenly snapped. I collapsed amidst the rising tension in the courtroom, my world fading to black. What followed was an experience I can only describe as a divine intervention. I found myself in a vast, dark desert, lost and disoriented, when a brilliant light pierced through the shadows. In that luminous glow stood Jesus, radiating compassion and understanding. It was as if he were an anchor in the tumultuous sea of my soul. As he spoke, I felt my heart open to revelations I had been blind to. Jesus shared profound truths that shattered my understanding of what I thought faith was meant to be. He revealed the hidden agenda of our societies, where the elite manipulate beliefs to maintain control, fostering a spiritual war that many walk blindly within. I witnessed how deception had infiltrated not only religious institutions, but also the very fabric of our political and social systems. This was more than mere ideology. It was a battle for the truth that lay behind the veils of tradition I had unknowingly accepted. In that moment of clarity, I realized that my dissatisfaction was not merely personal but a reflection of a larger spiritual conflict. Each day we spent entangled in our routines distracts us from the divine calling that beckons. Jesus encouraged me to embrace this awakening, propelling me toward a mission far greater than my own. I understood then that my journey wasn't just about finding peace within myself. It was about sharing this awakening with others who felt lost in the same darkness I had navigated. When I came back to consciousness, the world around me felt different. I was infused with an urgency to spread these revelations, to warn others about the deception surrounding them. Yet, accompanying this purpose was an undeniable fear. The idea of losing my family and community for speaking the truth was daunting. Still, I knew I couldn't remain silent. The words of Jesus echoed in my heart, compelling me to take action. Despite the risks, I was determined to illuminate the path for others and challenge the divisive narratives that kept us shackled in ignorance. The awakening had begun, and I felt ready to embrace whatever came next in this spiritual war. Now that you've journeyed with me through the profound depths of faith and awakening, I invite you to pause and reflect. Have you ever felt an inner turmoil, a whisper of something greater nudging at your heart? In this world of chaos and hidden agendas, our souls are engaged in a spiritual war, one that goes beyond mere belief systems, seeking to illuminate the truth that is often obscured by fear and division. What happened to me in that courtroom was not just a personal revelation, it was a call to action for each of us. It reminded me that we are all part of something larger. There is a divine force yearning for us to awaken, to question the narratives that confine us. The light we seek isn't just for ourselves, but for the countless others navigating their own spiritual battles. I urge you to consider, have you ever felt that pull to seek a deeper truth in your life? What insights have you been shown in your own journey? If this message resonates with you, don't leave without subscribing to Truth from Beyond and activating notifications. Your engagement plays a crucial role in spreading awareness and awakening the consciousness of others. Together, let's challenge the status quo and illuminate the paths of those who may still be ensnared in darkness. The revelations ahead are designed to deepen your understanding and empower you in your own journey. In our next video, prepare to hear another incredible testimony, one that speaks to the transformative power of grace and acceptance in the face of adversity. I'm Amir, and I thank you for being part of this community of seekers. Remember, you are not alone in this spiritual battle, and the truth will always guide you if only you dare to seek.